These are some of my Captoe boots that have real toe caps on them. That's 2 layers of leather. What do I like about them? What don't I like about them? G'day, welcome back to my channel Bootlosophy, all about heritage style boots and heritage gear from time to time. My name is Tek, if we haven't met before, and I'm in Perth in Western Australia, which is Wajak country, Kaliku Wajak Nungabuja. So these are some of my Captoe boots that have real toe caps. And often a pair of boots is made with a false toe cap, and what that means is they will have a boot made where the vamp, that's this part of the boot, cuts off across there. And then a piece of leather is stitched on edge to edge so that when completed, it looks like it's an extended toe cap. These boots, however, what they have in common is that this piece of leather, this toe cap, is actually a second piece of leather built on top of a full vamp. So in all of these cases, they have at least 2 pieces of leather there, 3 if there's a lining, and so that creates a little bit of protection from the toe cap. And one of my viewers asked me, would I make a video about my real Captoe boots and what I liked or disliked about them? So that's what this video is all about. Let me introduce you to them. So the first one is this Green Numzaan boot, and the reason I'm picking that up is that it's currently the cheapest in this little collection here, and so I'm going to go through them in order of price. The second boot I want to introduce you to is this pair of Captoe boots from Cordobes in Mexico. One of the most comfortable boots that I currently wear. Then comes the Iron Ranger, and we all know about Red Wing and the Iron Ranger. This one is the 8111 amber harness with beautifully soft, now soft, didn't used to be, oil tanned leather. And then the next boot along is the Parkhurst Richmond. Now Parkhurst have had the Captoe boot for a long time called the Richmond, but in this case this is the first iteration of their real toe cap being put on. And in fact, their website described this as a plain toe Allen boot with a second piece of leather on the toe cap. And then finally, towards the more expensive end, is this White's MP, and it is still my grail boot, built by White's in the Pacific Northwest, and the heaviest of the lot as well. Beautifully made. So let's go through what I like and dislike of each of these boots. The first toe cap boot, real toe cap boot that I'm going to talk about is the Green Numzaan. This is one of their premier builds. I'm not a fan of the no fall or whatever they call it, you know, the flat sole. Not a huge fan of that because I do find that my feet need some arch support, which this gives you in droves. So it's made of a bovine tanned leather, very tough. It's fully lined on the inside. It's a real toe cap. It's darkened quite a lot because I use this quite a lot outdoors in my garden, and I've conditioned it several times with mink oil just to keep the waterproofing going. I do like this boot in terms of its fit. It's a nice wide fit. I found it hell to break in, to be honest, because the leather was initially extremely firm in its temper. And it took maybe the second bout of mink oil conditioning before it eventually softened, and then I was able to wear it without a great deal of pain in the lace area on the instep, and also in the heel area, and also in the collar. But once it had been broken in and it was well oiled, this became a very comfortable boot, and I love it for being outdoors and doing some work out there. It's got some weird patterns of wear. However, what I like about it is the fit. I think that big wide last and the round toe is perfect for a work boot or a hiking boot, where you sort of want to fit not snugly in a boot that your toes can scrabble and find some purchase when you're walking or digging or whatever. I also particularly like the pattern of this. I think it's an interesting pattern in the sense that the quarters, for example, is not just one quarter piece. It's a quarter piece up to there, and then they attach this piece on top of the collar, like making a separate piece. And the interesting bit is that the heel counter cover stops where that piece starts. So it's just a little different in its design. What I also like is the way this keeps dirt out from your socks, because not only is it gusseted up to there, it's a very clever double gusseting where this fits in behind the hardware. An extra thick layer of leather is put on top once that fold is folded in, but also that where the hardware is, there's a second fold of leather here. So as you cinch everything down, this bit of the hardware is protected off your feet by this piece of leather, and then onto the thickness of the leather tongue. And I find that gives me a lot of comfort here once this part of the instep has broken in, and it certainly keeps a lot of dirt and moisture out. What I don't like about it, it's a like and dislike. What I don't like about it is the weight of the frog grip sole. This is actually quite a heavy boot, particularly when it's not something that say a steel toe for protection. You get enough protection with the light work that I do through these 3 or 4 layers of leather. But overall, it's actually quite a heavy boot. The leather midsole attached to this thick rubber frog grip sole makes it quite heavy. In fact, as I carry it, I'm feeling the weight. The like about that heaviness is this frog grip sole is magnificent in grip. It's soft, it's accommodating, it's comfortable to walk on, and it's also extremely grippy on wet pavements and that sort of thing. The other thing I dislike about it, I think, is the shape of that toe cap. Unlike the others, it has a crescent toe cap, which to me doesn't look very nice. When I look down, it looks like, I'm expecting the toe cap to be straight. The corollary to that, of course, is when I was breaking this in and it was bending, I didn't get that toe cap digging into the top of my toes, which I will talk about in another boot. So that's a Numzaan. Let's go to, and if I didn't say, this is US $259. Let's go on to the next boot. This is the Cordobes Captoe boot. Cordobes do, let me see, they do a service boot, they do a Captoe boot, they do an engineer boot, they do a jodhpur. I think that's it. But they also MTO these especially for you. This is straight off the rack, which you can buy a bit cheaper. But in the MTO, you can choose the stitching color, you can choose the construction material, you can choose the material of the sole, you can choose practically everything on this boot. And it can be made to measure with a special last for you as well. But in this straight off the rack version, it's US $329. And what you get for it is a very usable boot. You can very easily, I think, use this for light work around the house. It's supportive enough. I don't think I'd be carrying bricks wearing this boot in case it dropped on me. But as a mechanic, you can slide under cars. As a plumber, it's easy enough to be kneeling under a vanity. Really, really lovely casual boot, as well as if you want to use it as a work boot. I have used this quite a lot. You can see the crocking on the surface, and you can see some dirt appearing on the toes as well as dirt appearing on the heels. In terms of the pattern, it's very simple. Plain vamp, Captoe on top, 2 side quarters, 1 single piece backstay with a little pull loop. I mean, I never use that. Hardware is a combination of shiny brass and antique brass speed hooks. I find this quite a useful combination of eyelets and speed hooks with a top eyelet at the top, which I almost never use to fasten. A bit easier to take it on and off. What I like and what I don't like about it. What I like is the comfort of it. I mean, look at that leather. It's local Mexican tanned leather, natural rough out, beautiful and soft. It's supportive when you cinch it. but it's still soft and very accommodating when you're walking around in it. The toe puff and the heel keep you locked in, so there's no lack of support. Also, and I'm not quite sure quite how they do this, I think in the lining, this is not lined in the shaft because it's a rough out, so the grain sight's on there. But in the vamp, they do put a thicker leather lining, and for whatever reason, that thicker leather lining sort of is cut so that it matches the quarter. And I think that gives you a little bit of arch support, just pushing up into the side of your foot there to create that arch support. It has a steel arch. It uses a reprocessed rubber outsole, which I specifically requested, which I think it's, you know, conservation and all that. It's a Goodyear welted boot, very low flat heel. I'm not a fan of the low flat heel because sometimes I think I would prefer it a little bit higher just to give me that arch shape. But, you know, if you like flat shoes, that's just like a slipper moving around. What I don't like about it, I think, is the finishing, which is quite rough along the edges. It's not perfectly sanded smooth and then waxed. In fact, as I rub my hand on it, some of the stacks of leather in the heel, they're still quite grainy and fibrous. In many ways, I guess that makes it a working casual boot, but it's something that I think perhaps could be finished a little bit nicer. Other things that I don't like about it, not quite sure what that's for really. I mean, you can hardly hold it. You could almost cut it off and it makes no difference because you could pull. It's easier to pull it doing that than to do that. I do like the roundness of the shape, but I wish there was a little bit more volume in the toe box. Not that it squashes down on me, but I'm conscious of feeling that there's something on top of my toes. So there you go. Let's go on to the next boot now. This boot, no introduction required. Look at that clowny shaped toe cap. Look at the spring toe. Look at that slope down the shaft. This is the Red Wing Iron Ranger. No introduction required. Sells for US $350, $349.99, I think. Easier to say $350. Famous for its very shiny nickel hardware, 4 eyelets, 3 speed hooks, the bent over type. Famous for really not finishing off the back of the hardware very well. I mean, that's a very scratchy finish on that thing. The amber harness leather in the 8111 model is also famous, made by the tannery that Red Wing owns, SB Foot. And it's a difficult leather to break in, I find. It's oil tanned and it has a very firm temper. But after you wear it for a while, and then upon first conditioning, and I conditioned it with Red Wing's all-natural conditioner, it just becomes this really very molded to your foot type leather. Really, really nice. And this is the older version with the cork, flat cork, rubber cork, nitrile sole. What do I like about it? I like it because it's an icon. You can't deny that, can you? If you wear an Iron Ranger, you recognize it immediately. You look at Instagram photos, they don't have to say what it is. You look at that angle, it's definitely an Iron Ranger. And then you look at the details, these are the likes. That triple stitch with the single contrasting stitch. That iconic, backstay with that little circle, semicircle at the top. I like the iconic looks of the shiny nickel hardware without any pretense of trying to hide it. And I like this flat sole. A lot of people say it doesn't give them grip, but I like it. What do I not like about the Iron Ranger? It's not the world's most comfortable boot. Even when I say, oh, after break-in, it's really comfortable, it's soft, it's still not the world's comfortable boot. Because I think one of the reasons is it doesn't have a midsole, famously. The insole with the welt attached has that cavity filled with cork for sure, but then they put it immediately onto a rubber outsole. So it misses out an insole, which I think provides that extra squish of real leather. on top of the cork. Other things I don't like about it, despite the iconic look, it's not a shape that's, if you're an office worker in a professional office, I'm a management consultant, it's not a look you can easily pair with office clothing. And I'm not a manual laborer, so I don't wear this out on site anywhere. So this becomes entirely a casual boot. And as a casual boot, it's just a bit too work booty to fit into going to pubs, which is better suited to, say, the Parkhurst with a slimmer look. So there you go, that's the Red Wing Iron Ranger. Next boot. My next real toe cap boot is this one from Parkhurst. This is their Richmond model. Now Parkhurst have always made Allens, which is their plain toe model, and Richmonds, which is their toe cap model. They also make a brogue toe cap called the Delaware, and they've had a couple of models in the past, other models in the past. But these are the two basic models, the Allen, the Richmond, and the third one, which doesn't appear all that often, the brogue toe cap Delaware. They're all built in the same last. They're all built using the same patterns. So if you looked at the website for the Richmond, particularly the newer models with the double leather real toe cap, you will see that the website says, basically think of this as an Allen boot with another piece of leather put on as the toe cap. And in fact, the Delaware, while it's not a real toe cap boot at the moment, if they bring it out, I imagine it will become a real toe cap boot, is also an Allen, but with the vamp cut off and a toe cap with the brogues attached to that cut off vamp. So this is their first iteration of a real toe cap, two pieces of leather on top of the toe. Otherwise, everything is very service boot-like, and this is one of, I think, the most clean, sleekest shaped service boots that you get out there. Even with the modernized 2030 last on the Viberg, I think this is a lot sleeker, dressier. It's a bit of a shame that Parkhurst don't do this in dressy leathers. If you imagine this in, say, a Colorate Chrome XL or even a brown Chrome XL, you can see how this could be, if the edges were darkened and so on, you can see how this could be quite a dressy office boot. But Parkhurst opt for these rougher leathers. They use Wax Sea Commander from Stead in this case. They use Rambler leathers, they use Kudus and so on. So they go for a sleek, almost dressy shape, and I'd say dressy shape, topped with obviously rougher, outdoorsy type of leathers. And the stitch down construction on these, they used to be Goodyear welted, the stitch down construction of these doubles down on that outdoorsy, go hiking type boot along with the Commando outsole. Mostly offered in Commando outsole these days. If I didn't tell you the selling price, they're around US $418 at the moment, $420. Mostly in that price, and I don't think it changes depending on the leathers because they all fit within that range. What I like about it, I love this 618 last. It's a combination last with a very narrow, I think, B width heel, with a very narrow, I think, B, and you can see how narrow it is. I think if I just show you that where my fingers are, it has a very narrow B width waist, and then it opens up to an E or even, I think, a double E ball of the foot before it narrows down again to a not very sharp almond toe. I mean, that's a very comfortable almond toe. Love the last. I do like that the leathers that they put on this because it just gives that rubbed off, you know, rough looking look to a pair of boots that you want to wear with jeans, for example. I really love also the design of the hardware. There's usually 5 eyelets and 3 speed hooks, so they're actually quite close together up a 6-inch boot. But that backward slope gives them a little bit of room, and I think the antiqued look to this hardware just suits that whole rugged look to it. I like the look of the double stitch down, where one stitch goes all the way through to the outsole and the other stitch puts together the uppers leather, the midsole, and then they put on the outsole and stitch through that in the second stitch. What I don't like about this boot, two things mainly. One is I really wish Andrew would offer more variations on the outsole. Some people really like the Commando sole, and this one actually has quite a low profile, I admit that. But I find this quite firm. You get this effect of tuk, 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 as it runs over the lugs. It's also horrible for picking up dirt between the lugs. And you kind of, after every walk, particularly if you're in the rough stuff, you're going to have to come and clean the lugs out. Don't like it. I wish Andrew would offer more of his proprietary day-night style soles, or my favorite of all soles, his proprietary Ridgeway style soles. I like those. They're also a little less aggressive when you see them from the side, but these are, well, I guess these are a little bit more hidden than the Vibram 100 Montañas. Weirdly, I dislike the length of that toe cap. When it was a single piece of leather, not a problem. And if you look at some of my Richmonds with a single piece of leather there attached to the cut-off vamp, you find as I'm walking, the creasing cuts across the top of the toe cap. In this case, that leather there is so thick that when I walk, I crease just behind it. And that fold digs into the top of my toes. It's not very comfortable. I don't think these are fully broken in yet. And I'm hoping that when they break in, this whole piece softens a little bit and you do start to get the toe cap to also bend a little, because right now it can be very, very uncomfortable when I'm doing a rapid walk. There you go. I nearly forgot about that. Right, let's go to the last boot, which is the White's MP boot. And this is at the expensive end of the range at US $815. They now offer a different version, the CMP, which is a standard stitch down, which is a bit cheaper. But this one is their famous rolled welt stitch down. And what they do is they last the boot, then instead of attaching a welt or attaching the top of the boot to a welt, they sew on another piece of leather, which is exactly similar to that, grain side to grain side, and then they fold that over to form a welt and stitch that down, which is why you get this sort of gnarly, like a bubble gum that's been chewed and laid down, like silicone through a tube kind of effect on the top of the welt. I love it though. As a boot, I guess this is the ultimate service boot, the MP military police boot. In this iteration, it has a two-piece backstay, 6-inch high, of course, standard block heel with a half Commando sole and a Commando top lift. And because this is a heavy outdoor boot, then I don't mind that Commando sole, much less than I mind it on the Parkhurst, because I don't take the Parkhurst out walking a lot. I generally use it in town. What I like about this, firstly, I like that they use Chrome Excel, but that's just a choice of leathers, so I won't count that. What I like about this, like the Iron Ranger, is that it is an iconic service boot shape, where the Iron Ranger is maybe an iconic work boot shape from the early 20th century. This is an early 20th century military boot, and I lusted after this when I first saw it online. What I also like about it is the fact that despite being heavy, because it has all the Pacific Northwest characteristics of building up the inside of the sole with layers and layers of leather, including a shaped leather shank. And what I like about it is that despite being heavy, it's a very comfortable boot to wear. This uses a modified Barry last, which is used by Alden, which they call the MP last, or used to be called the MP Barry last. Now it's called the MP last, which is a long last. And in effect, when you size this is an 8D, which is a half size down from my Brannock, which is what they recommend. But I believe that I could fit into this in a 7.5 E or double E, because it's longer than I need it to be, and the width is just right. So if I had a wider double width, it becomes a bit shorter proportionally, and that might fit me a bit better. Having said that, I think one of the reasons why I like the comfort in this is because that toe gives me no pressure at all. You know, it's a longish enough toe that allows me to be snug in the boot, but without feeling like either side of my toes or the tip of my toes are pushing into something. I like the comfort that this affords through the shape of the design, and the way that this cups your heel, and the way that this gives you arch support because it pushes into the side of your foot, and because of the way the insole and all the layers of the sole, in fact, are structured by that leather, so it gives you a top lift. A lot of people will say this does not give you anything like the arch support of a P&W 55 last, and that's true. But I find with my slightly collapsed arches that a 55 last digs into my arch and is a bit uncomfortable. Whereas this, I think, just gives me the right balance of arch support and comfort. What I dislike about this boot is the way Whites, when they do the stitching, just the outside stitching, just stitches on top of the lugs. Like there's no pretense at cutting a groove. There's no pretense at trying to hide that stitch, and over time, as you can see there, it starts to wear. I'm told, and I believe them, I believe everybody, I'm told that the wearing out of the stitches doesn't matter as much because it's cross-stitched inside, the glues are fantastic, etc., etc. And I have other boots where that's been worn completely gone and nothing's happened to the sole. So yeah, I totally believe it. However, it's ugly. Having said that, one of the objectives of this boot, I suppose, that it looks like a roughly made, quickly made for the war effort service boot. So, you know, ugliness comes in as part of the bill, I suppose. There you are in summary. I've tried to look at these boots dispassionately, despite having some favorites among these. My favorite is the Parkhurst, and I have, 20 pairs of Parkhurst boots, I believe, just because of the shape and the look of it. The White's MP is another one of my favorites because it is a grail boot. This is the one that I looked for when I started, or looked for and or bought substitutes like the Thursday Captain when I first started getting into boots. This is amongst my favorites. It's not my favorite to wear, the Iron Ranger, but it is amongst my favorites because it's so iconic. It perhaps is not the most comfortable out of this collection, but I love the look of it. The Green Numzaan is in my favorites by default because I find this such a useful outdoor gardening boot. So I pull it on a lot. Not that I think that it looks beautiful or anything. It's just such a pragmatic, practical boot that I use it a lot. This, again, I wouldn't say that, this is one of my favorite boots in looks, but the Cordobes is such a comfortable boot with this lovely flat sole. Even on the inside, it's a flat, wide sole. So it feels like you're wearing slippers slipping along the road when you go out shopping or going to the pubs or something. So out of these two, I think I would say these two are my favorites of them all. I hope you liked it. I hope you like the likes and dislikes, and you probably have some different ones. So if you have any of these boots and if you have likes and dislikes, I would love to hear them in the comments section. And while you're down there, don't forget to click on like. And if you're not subscribed, I've got lots of these videos, so why don't you subscribe and help me out? I'm back next week. Take care out there. See you soon.